Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I'm happy to talk about. I saw your email now. It said you said you'd talk about mostly real estate stuff, but I mean, I also did the whole house hacking thing, so I could share about that or YouTube or pretty much anything between those two topics. So whatever you guys think is most interesting.
Yeah, I think so just a quick reminder. So this group of young people is they all have real estate in their sights as an investment tool. But really, I would say it's a collection of young people who are very much into the early financial independence movement and setting up different passive income streams like real estate. But also they're all side hustles and managing money and investing even in stock market stuff. So Ryan, I know that you you have a lot of expertise and experience under your belt, and I think everyone on here has seen your YouTube channel, if not been on it multiple times, and you have a really good thing going there. So we can kind of go about this two different ways. Ryan, we can start with you, just kind of talking about your thoughts and what your advice would be for this young group of people, or we could just have them post questions in the chat and have you go after those questions one by one, which we did with our last guest, and it actually worked really well.
Yeah, I like that better because I would prefer to answer like the exact questions people have rather than what I think is what people want to hear. So I'm fine with doing direct questions. I don't know where the chat is though. So do you want to just read them to me, or would I see them on my screen?
Are you on a laptop?
Yeah. So, I see chat. Okay. I see test from Leo. Never mind. I think I see that. Okay. I opened up chat. So I see that now. Okay.
So yeah, guys, put your questions in there and we'll get started. And just before we do get started, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us and taking time out of your week.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it was really cool to hear that you have a group of especially young people interested in this stuff and dedicating their time on a Sunday night. Like that speaks a lot towards the group, so it's a good group here as far as being interested in this stuff at such a young age. I guess in the meantime, until anybody has any questions, I'll just share a little bit on my background in case you're not familiar. But so I ended up, after graduating high school, I got a job working for my local, I went to school, went to community college and got a degree in electrical construction. And then I was working for my local power utility for about 2 years, doing as a union worker there. And even though I made like really good money there and was in a union and everything, it just really wasn't like the right place for me. And so I ended up starting a YouTube channel as like a side hobby hustle thing. And I never really did it with any plans of making money. It was just something I did for fun and for kind of as a creative outlet. And then after a couple of months of doing it, I started making a little bit of ad revenue here and there. And ultimately, fast forward quite a bit, I decided in 2017 to leave my very secure, well-paying job behind for this internet stuff that was totally unproven. But I really wanted to share content around bettering, financial education for people and like these things that I had learned myself that I had always thought were common sense that really weren't, like building credit when you're 18 and getting a secured credit card. So I was making videos on topics like that. And I just saw, basically I could see the potential of what I could grow this into. But in order for me to do that, I needed my time back. And I was putting, full-time hours into this job with a really long commute. So not saying that everybody needs to necessarily quit their job or anything. I mean, a lot of people, it does make sense to go out there and get a job. But I think it's important to realize when you have, opportunities in front of you that could potentially be something that makes you money, or it could lead to something else. So when I was younger, even in my teenage years, I would dabble on YouTube and I would play around with different channels. So it was something that I always had on like my back burner as an interest. And when I was a teenager, I remember I would always think like, oh, this is stupid. Like I'm never going to do anything with YouTube. Like I'm not going to make any money. So why do I do this thing? But I kept like circling back to it with my different channels, just kind of playing around. And then, so when I was in my 20s and I wanted to start another channel, I was like, this is kind of crazy, but you know what, I guess I'll give it a shot. So if you're something that I guess is, you know, a repetitive thing coming up, you should pay attention to those things, because I always had that interest in entrepreneurship when I was younger. And I always had that interest in like affiliate marketing and building a YouTube channel. So those interests and passions don't really go away. So it's important to pay attention to those. Looks like a couple questions here. Who is your target market? So that kind of has changed a little bit, but at first my target market was people who were my age, who didn't have the same resources growing up, because I had, you know, my dad was a financial advisor, so he always gave me good money advice. And I just knew things like, oh, 18 years old, go get a secured credit card, start building your credit. You know, live below your means, you know, max out your 401k so that way your employer matches. So I had all these things that I had learned that I thought were common sense, but they really weren't. So my demographic was basically me, people my age who didn't necessarily have the upbringing that I did, and they weren't aware of things like, you know, house hacking or 401ks and things like that. And then let's see, how many subscribers is the threshold to start making money? When I started, there was no threshold, but initially I was making like a couple pennies a day. So it wasn't even like a meaningful amount of money. But right now the threshold is you need to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, which is it's not anything huge, but it is enough of a hurdle that, you know, it keeps people from starting channels unless you're really serious about it, which is actually kind of good, because there's a lot of competition on YouTube. So it's kind of good that actually made the bar a little bit more competitive. Let's see. Leo said, if you could go back to 20 years old, what would you do different to get to where you are? I would have just taken a lot more risks and taken them faster, because when I was working my job and then doing this channel on the side, I was very like risk averse. And I was like so afraid of like, what would happen if I leave this job and, you know, take this risk of doing this channel. Like I knew that I wanted to do something different than this work at my job, but it took me like years of building up the courage and being miserable until I actually did something about it. So I would say if I was 20, I would just encourage myself to not be as afraid of risk, you know, maybe not go crazy with risk and, you know, quit my job or go gamble or things like that. Because I mean, when I left my job, I was already making money from my channel, and a lot of people will like leave their job with no other side hustle, no other income source. And like, that's crazy to me, just too much risk. But a little bit of risk is okay, especially when you have a proven system or a really good opportunity in front of you. Let's see. Taylor said, how old were you when you got your first house hack? What kind of house hacking strategy did you do? I actually just got my house hack last year, and that was because I had to have 3 years of tax returns showing my business income before I could really get a mortgage. So I had the financing for it for a long time, but I didn't have the tax returns. So I actually didn't do it until last year. And as far as the strategy goes, I'm not sure what strategy this is, but it's basically like I started off with using my FHA loan, which was 3.5% down, and I bought a 3-unit property. But I ended up refinancing it actually this year because I had some extra cash and the housing market's gone up quite a bit. So now I'm actually conventional, which helps out because then I don't have to pay the PMI. But the numbers on the property when I first got it with the FHA loan, my mortgage was like $3,150 and my rents were, let me do the math here quick. My rents were around $1,600. So I was still paying a good amount of the mortgage, but this property was unique because there's actually, there was a cottage on it as well that wasn't totally fixed up. So I actually got that fixed up and then refinanced the property, rented that out. So it was an additional revenue stream from the rents from that. And then after getting rid of PMI and having additional equity, my mortgage is now like $2,500 and my total rents are about $2,000. So now it's like a much better setup where I'm only effectively paying like $500 per month. But the interesting thing is, of the mortgage, about $600 per month that is paid goes back in principal. So it's actually pretty much free to live there because I'm paying $500 and getting $600 back in equity. So, I mean, I would say of all of the moves, and I mean, I'm sure you guys talk about this too, but of all of the moves I've made financially, by far the best one you can do that's applicable to most people is that house hacking strategy, because there's really nothing else out there like it in terms of the amount of money that can free up for you that you can direct towards, investments, or maybe you want to invest it in a business or anything like that. That's like one of the best things that you can do. Let's see here. Quite a few questions. That's good. Books you most recommend? Well, when I was in my early 20s, definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the best books that I read. And if you've read that one, I also really like the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss is really good. That helped me to understand how to most effectively use my time. And I'm not somebody who's like crazy workaholic, like 50, 60 hours. I actually probably don't even work 40 hours most weeks. But when I do work, I work very efficiently, and I try to focus on, if you talk about the 80-20 rule, I try to focus on the 20% that's getting me the most results. And that's kind of what I learned out of the 4-Hour Workweek. Other than that, The E-Myth is a really good book. So between those three, those are like some of my favorite finance related books. Ethan said, what were the biggest things in your opinion that accelerated your YouTube growth? There were a couple of different things. I would say the main thing was that I was kind of like the first one in my niche to be doing videos like this. When I started doing finance videos, there weren't really that many people doing it. It was like a handful of us. And so I had that first mover's advantage, where before that, YouTube was really just a place where you would go and watch entertainment videos, or things like how to change your oil. It was kind of like a how-to / entertainment thing. So it seems like in 2016, when I was starting my channel, there was a larger shift happening of YouTube becoming more of an educational platform and not just a place to entertain yourself or fix your broken toaster or something like that. So it was a really good time to be doing those types of videos. It's way more competitive now, not to discourage anybody from entering the finance niche, but on YouTube, it's competitive. There's a lot of channels now. And so when I started, there was basically 5 or 6 people making this type of video. So pretty much if I was making a video on a certain topic, there was a possible chance that nobody even had a video on that topic. So it was like I was in a pretty much untapped growing market. That helped a lot. I also think that what helped me was doing a lot of putting a lot of thought into the content I was creating, because when I first started my channel, I would do videos based on what I thought people would want to watch. So I would do videos out of my own head on things that I thought were helpful. And then I learned a little bit more later on that I should probably be doing some research on what people are actually searching for. So I did a lot of videos based on what was actually being searched for. So like, for example, how to get your first credit card. That was something people were searching for. So I made that video. So I still do have those videos that, are just purely creative, where it's something I think of and I want to make it. But a lot of my videos are things where I say, hey, there's demand for this content. Let me make this video. So that was super helpful early on. Let's see, who is the person you look up to? There's probably, that has kind of changed along the way, because I feel like early on when I was growing my channel, I would look up to like big YouTubers. And then once you get to that level and you have a large YouTube audience, you kind of look at maybe people in a different position that you may look up to. But early on, I looked up to a lot of the big YouTubers. For example, the guy Alpha M, who does like the fashion or the men's fashion videos, men's grooming videos. I looked up to him a lot just because I was just amazed by his audience. Obviously, a lot of the investing people, Warren Buffett, everybody looks up to him. So those are the main people that I was looking up to. And also Pat Flynn. I've always was fascinated by his income online because he would do the monthly affiliate reports for how much money he was making through affiliate marketing. And I remember I used to always, every month, I'd be sitting at my desk at work and I would read his report of how he was making like 60, 70 grand a month with his blog and with his online business. And I would just sit there thinking like, there's no way this is real. Like, come on, really? But it was, I found out it was real, you know, I mean, it is possible to do that. So that was somebody else I was looking up to a lot. Let's see here. Are you willing to share how much revenue your YouTube channel brings in per month? Yeah, I'm pretty transparent about this. So I make money in a couple of different ways. There's the ad revenue, and then there's the affiliate side of it. And then there's also the digital products. I have a couple of courses that I sell. So the majority of my money actually comes from the affiliates. And that's basically where I may be doing a review video. And let's say I'm reviewing like Robinhood for stock trading. And if people sign up for Robinhood, I get a commission from that sign up. So usually each month from the affiliate side, it's somewhere around 10 to 15,000 from the affiliates. And then from the ads, it's another 10,000 to 12,000. So it's usually somewhere around 30,000 per month for my channel, which is amazing. I mean, when I was working at that union job, I was making 70K, and I would have gone up to about 100,000 if I stayed there. So to be making 30,000 a month is really exceptional, and I feel really blessed to be able to make that much. But yeah, that's typical too for finance channels because it's a very profitable space. Let's see here. What advice do you have for growing an online social media account such as Instagram or YouTube? Can you lead us to any resources or any of your videos that could be helpful? The main thing that I would say is, as far as growing, is pay attention to the next big thing. So for example, I had recommended that a couple people start doing TikTok, like probably a year ago when I first came across it. And I was like, this is going to be pretty big, I bet. And it is big. So I would say try to look for emerging platforms like that where you can gain a foothold, because when a new social media platform comes out, it's a level playing field. So you can get in there. Like I would be, if I were you guys, I'd be on Instagram Reels. I'd be doing the Snapchat Spotlight, like whatever new feature is coming out on these platforms. Because right now, all the big social media platforms want to get rid of TikTok, and they're trying to undermine them with short videos built in on the app. So like, for example, a friend of mine just recently, I was telling him about Instagram Reels, and he was like, oh, let me try that out. He started posting videos. He only has 400 followers on Instagram. He was posting videos on Instagram Reels and getting 3,000 people watching them. So to get 3,000 people watching a piece of content when you have 400 followers, like that's crazy. So that tells you that that tells you that Instagram is sharing that video to a lot of people. So I would say pay attention to new platforms and new features on old platforms, because that's going to be where they're directing attention towards, especially in such a competitive environment like we have with TikTok. And I would also say too, you know, there may not be money, you know, a direct means of making money through TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, but you really have no idea what that audience or influence could lead to. So even if you only have, you know, even if you only have the followers and you're not making any money, there's probably going to be an opportunity to make money down the road, even though it's not that immediate payoff. I feel like people know that you can make money on YouTube, so they all go over there and they try to make these channels to make money. And then I feel like the big potential is in the TikTok, the Instagram Reels, these other things that may not be the immediate, oh, here's the money, but you can build a big audience and then eventually figure out how to make money with it. Let's see here. I don't really, and as far as you said, if I have any videos that would be helpful, I don't really have any videos on growing on social media, but there's a ton of them on YouTube that you can check out that are, I'm sure there's some good ones out there. Did you have any doubt about yourself or your channel? Oh, totally. I still do sometimes, you know, you're going to have ups and downs in any business. You know, when I first started, it was a big risk to leave a good job to dabble on YouTube. And even now, like there will be times that my views are down and I'll have doubts again, like, man, did I make the right decision? But that's just the nature of being in any business. You're going to have ups and downs. And so, if you're somebody who likes the certainty, well, then you probably are a good candidate for just being an employee and getting that consistent paycheck where you don't have those ups and downs, but you just know what you're going to make. And that works for a lot of people, and that's fine. But yeah, I certainly did have doubts, and there are still times that I'll have a challenge come up and I have doubts again. But it depends on if you're the type of person who thrives under that type of stress or doesn't. And I'm definitely the type of person who, when I do have doubts and when I'm challenged, I really buckle down and I try to come up with a unique and creative solution. So it all depends on, I guess, your personality type. And okay, so how did I overcome those doubts? Well, I guess one thing was just putting myself out there because like when I first started my channel, I was nervous if people would take me seriously. I was younger, but I just basically figured, you know what, I'm just going to put myself out there and people can take it or leave it. If they like my information, they can watch the videos, but if they don't, then they can watch somebody else's. So I kind of just figured I'll throw it out there, and if somebody sees value in it, then they can watch it. But if they don't, no, you know, no problem. It's not really affecting me. How do you differentiate yourself in the competitive market of YouTube? Well, see, the thing is, I've actually started to get squeezed out a little bit because of the amount of competition. I mean, when I first started, like I said, I had that first mover's advantage and I built up a massive audience in the stock market, investing, finance space on YouTube. But there's literally so much competition now that even I'm getting choked out a little bit where my views are down a little bit. But I guess in terms of differentiating myself, I try to figure out how to make my videos just as valuable and interesting as possible without some of the fluff. I feel like these days with YouTube, I'm not going to name names or anything, but I've come across a lot of channels in the finance space that will make very clickbait videos, and they're like 20, 25 minutes long. And I don't know if that's the most valuable way to deliver content. And I mean, I'm also guilty of this as well. A little bit of the clickbait thumbnails here and there. You have to do that to some degree. But I try to keep my content still as concise as possible. And I would hate to be feeling like I was wasting someone's time. And I feel that a lot of the videos out there today are a little bit wasteful of time because they'll just drag things out and it turns into this whole thing where you may have a topic that's covered in the video, but 20 minutes is spent beating around the bush and kind of keeping people enticed. So that's not really a strategy I like, and I see a lot of that. So I'm trying to avoid that, even though that is more or less what YouTube wants, is people sticking around and watching the videos for a long time. It's kind of unfortunate that that's the type of video that gets promoted, but that's just the nature of the beast with YouTube. Aiden said, speaking of 4-hour work week, have you thought about using a VA for YouTube? Yeah, I have a couple of VAs. I actually last year had a lot more, and then I simplified my business a little bit because I was kind of doing a lot more. Like I was managing a couple of Instagram pages and doing a lot of different stuff. But again, coming back to the 80-20 rule, I remember sitting down looking at my overall business and I said, what's the 20% here? Like what's really making me the money? What's really bringing in the followers and getting eyeballs on my stuff? So I focused in on that and I got rid of a lot of the extra stuff that wasn't really doing as much for me. So I had a lot more VAs at that point in time when I was having my Instagram pages managed. But now I just have pretty much just one person helping me out with stuff. He does like some accounting for me, runs my payroll, moderates my comments, and a couple of other random odds and ends like that. And that helps out. But my business is pretty simple. I mean, I basically just post videos on YouTube, and I also respond to emails and manage the blog that I co-own. So I don't really have a heck of a lot going on here. So for me, it's pretty lean. But if you do have a more complicated business, then 100% having VAs is totally worth it because it frees up your time. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned is that you really should figure out like what your time is worth per hour. Whatever figure that is in your head, maybe it's $10 an hour, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30. And if you're doing something, if you're doing an activity and you could pay somebody less than what you're worth to do that activity, you should do that. Like, for example, I do have, so on my property where I live, I personally pay somebody to mow my lawn for me, and I pay someone to plow my driveway. And I've had people kind of like mock me about that. They're like, why don't you just get a lawnmower? Why don't you just get a snowblower? And, you know, I look at it as I feel my time is worth somewhere around, you know, $100 an hour, let's say. That's what I figure my time is worth. If I can pay somebody $50 or $75 to mow my lawn or plow my driveway, that actually makes me more money because I'm able to take that time and keep it where it makes money. So rather than me dropping everything once a week and mowing that lawn or plowing and shoveling that driveway, where I would be losing that time that I would be spending, that I could spend working, I instead pay someone else to do it, and I focus on what brings in more money. So I would always keep that in mind. A lot of people in business will make the mistake of doing as much as possible and spending as little as possible. Like I remember this story, I don't remember who had said this, but it was somebody who was having a meeting with the CEO of a company, and he went to the location where the company was. And there was a guy mowing the front of the business, just mowing the lawn. And the guy came up to him and goes, "Oh, I'm actually the CEO." And the guy was like, "Well, then what the heck are you doing out here mowing the grass?" You know, this guy was thinking he was, you know, saving money by not paying that landscaper, but you're costing yourself more money because you're not focused on that. You're not focused on the business. You're focused on saving $20, $30 versus making 100. So that's another thing I would keep in mind as you begin to make more money. Have that mental note of what your time is worth per hour, and if something is cheaper than that, pay someone to do it. Let's see here. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received? That's a tough one, and it's situational because it depends on if we're talking about money, happiness, life, whatever. But I guess if we're relating it to money, I think the best piece of advice that I've received is understanding lifestyle inflation, because a lot of people are just not aware of that. And that's, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. That's where when you make more money, you spend more money, and then you make a little bit more and you spend more, and you're never actually getting ahead. Because it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year or $500,000. What matters is how much of that you keep. So it's okay a little bit to inflate your lifestyle. I mean, I'm sure you guys, if you watch me on YouTube, know that I've had a couple of cool cars. I've traveled a little bit, you know, but like I certainly still save at least 80% of my income, 80, 90%. So I would say the best advice is that lifestyle inflation is a dangerous trap, and it's okay to treat yourself here and there, but you can't spend all of the additional money that you make, or else you never get ahead. I mean, I really look at I look at money as like a freedom fuel. That's what I think of it as, because it's something that can get you back your freedom. You can buy back your time. So when I'm spending money, I think about like, I'm basically getting rid of my freedom fuel. And I don't want to get rid of all my freedom fuel, because then I got to go back to work, you know, then I'd have to go work in a job, and I don't want to do that. So I try to keep most of it, invest it, and get more money coming in, rather than burning up all of my fuel source and then I'm out of fuel. And let's say my business wasn't doing well and I had to pivot into something else. Well, I have reserves of fuel I could use to sustain myself while I figure it out. So that's the way I view money, is it's like a resource. It's a fuel that allows you to have your time, and you don't want to, waste all that fuel. So that's just my 2 cents on it. What do you do? What do you do to research what is being searched? Google suggested search results are really good. YouTube suggested search results. And what I mean by that is, like, I'll show you, like, on my phone here, like, let's say you're on YouTube and you were doing videos on cooking. So you just go, like, to the search bar and you would type in, like, how to cook, and then you would just see what populates in the search. So how to cook rice, how to cook a turkey, how to cook salmon, how to cook steak. That's pretty much what I do, obviously just relevant to investing. So I would type in, like, stock market, and then the letter A, and then the letter B, and then the letter C, and just see what people are already searching for. And then I would make videos around those topics, assuming it was something I had expertise on. But yeah, that's like the easiest way to do it, is just to look at what people are searching for. I don't really use any complicated tools. I literally just use Google and YouTube. What are your goals going forward as far as YouTube and investing? As far as the channel goes, it would be cool to get to 1 million subscribers. I'm not sure if it'll happen because, like I said, my channel's getting squeezed a little bit with all the competition. As far as investing goes, I've actually pivoted away from a lot of stock market and real estate investing. And what I've been doing lately is the angel investing in startups. And so the goal I have right now is I want to invest $25,000 in 10 different startups over the next 2 years. And I've done 3 so far. So I'm looking to find 7 other companies that I can invest in. And hopefully, with angel investments, you're getting in at the ground floor. It's higher risk, but if you have a payoff, it could be massive, much larger than the type of payoff you might see with, the stock market or real estate. Let's see. What are your suggestions for maximizing your credit starting at 18? It's really pretty simple. I mean, and I was fortunate because it was actually one of the bank tellers that told me to do this. What it was, I was at the bank and I had I think I had like $2,000 in my checking account. I was 18. I always worked, like I started working when I was 15. I just always loved money and I always wanted it. So when I was 15, I started working. So I had a couple $1,000s saved up when I was 18. And I remember I went into the bank and the teller there was like looking at my ID. She was like, "Oh, you just turned 18." She was like, "Here's what you should do. Open up a secured credit card. We'll take $500 from your checking. We're going to put it in a CD, and that's going to back your credit card. So if you don't pay us back, we keep your CD. But if you do pay us back, you build credit." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds pretty good." So she like gave me instructions. She was like, "Every week, put your gas on this card, and every month pay off the entire balance, and do this and just forget about it and just do it every month." And I did. And, then by the time I was, in my 20s, I had a 700 plus credit score. And then I was able to get a Discover credit card very easily. I was able to get an auto loan without a cosigner. So that really just made my life so much easier. And again, that was the motivation for starting my channel, is the little things like that are so simple that make your life a lot easier, but like nobody knows to do this stuff. So that's pretty much the no-brainer approach, is the secured credit card. A year later, apply for an unsecured card and just do that. Put a little bit on there, pay it off in full. A little bit, pay it off in full. Treat it like a debit card and just never pay a penny of interest. And that's the way to play that game. What are some techniques you found to keep your viewers engaged with your content? Definitely keeping things moving. So my editor, I have him do a lot of zoom in, zoom out type shots. I've been trying to do more videos like in real life, as opposed to just like standing in front of a wall or like a green screen, like being in the real world. That has helped. But yeah, interjecting some humor here and there is good too. I think a lot of the channels that are doing well now are like, I would almost call them like a form of edutainment, where it's educational, but it's also entertaining. So there's like meme humor and things like that. So if you can blend it together where you're teaching people while making them laugh, that's the gold mine right there. People will just keep coming back. And that's something I need to work on, is injecting more humor into my content, because I see people doing a much better job and having better views. And I think a lot of it comes down to that, is they're able to mix in their humor and stuff like that with what might be ordinarily kind of a dry or boring topic. Let's see. Benjamin said, "Are you ever concerned about running out of topics?" Sometimes, yeah, like I really have felt like at times I'm remaking videos, or it's like a topic I've talked about. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. But if there's a couple of approaches here. I mean, one way to never run out of topics is to talk about the news. And a lot of people have done that on YouTube in the finance space, is they realized that, hey, rather than talking about the 80-20 rule or the 50-30-20 rule of buying a car and things like that, they were like, what if I just talk about whatever the heck is going on in the news related to Tesla or the stimulus checks, things like that. So I've seen a lot of people do that, pivot away from like videos talking about how to get a credit card, how to buy a car, and instead doing videos like, where's the next stimulus check, and Tesla battery day, here's my thoughts. So that's one way to never run out of topics, is to just talk about the news and current events. The only problem is that's not very passive, because you got to keep making new content. Because my whole strategy with YouTube was always evergreen. So you put a video out there, and hopefully that video will continue to get views for 2 or 3 years. People are searching for it. They find your video, and then you continue to earn some ad revenue. Like, that was always my strategy. Whereas the current event stuff, maybe you make a video on Tesla battery day and it gets a ton of views, but like no one's going to watch that video in 2-3 months. So those are like the two strategies people usually follow. If you never want to run out of topics, just talk about the news. But yeah, you do get to a point where you have talked about a lot of the things that you can talk about in your niche. Let's see here. How has your production quality improved over time? Just, here and there, I've just updated equipment. I actually recently this year got a better lens, and I'm now shooting and editing in 4K. I have an editor and a videographer too who does all that stuff for me. So that was huge. When I was beginning to see a bit of a lull with my videos, I said, I want to push the bar and I want to go up to 4K. And I hired an editor who does that stuff for me freelance. So basically, I just have over time reinvested my money back into new equipment and just trying to, keep up with the quality bar out there, because essentially what you have to do with YouTube is look at your competitors, and whatever they're doing, you kind of have to do the same in terms of quality. Like, if you were doing videos about travel, that's a very high quality bar. Like, you got to have drone shots, you got to have like 4K crazy HD cameras, like tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. If I went out there with my iPhone and tried shooting videos about me traveling, those videos are probably not going to do well because the quality bar is so high. So now that other people in my niche have done better cameras and better lighting and better sets, you kind of have to keep up with them. Otherwise, your content's going to look really dated and kind of stale compared to theirs. Let's see. What would you say has been the most drastic and effective change in the production of your videos as you've grown? Probably the most recent change of hiring an editor. Because before that, I edited my videos myself and recorded them myself. But the biggest change was just hiring someone to do that on a freelance basis. And again, back to the 80-20 rule, not to, bring that up again over and over, but that to me was, okay, I'm spending 2-3 hours a week editing a video. I could instead, take that 2-3 hours and be looking for video sponsors or figuring out topics for other videos. So I realized that even though it was going to cost me money to have the editor, it actually was going to save me money in the long run because I could dedicate my time to a more profitable activity. Let's see, what are your thoughts on paying off part of your credit card 15 days prior to the due date and then another payment 3 days before to boost credit? I have no idea if that's, I don't know if doubling up on payments has any effect on your credit score. But if it helps you manage your balance better, it's probably a good idea. But I'm not like an expert at credit score. I'm not sure if that would count as 2 payments. Let's see here. Ethan said, I have a very small finance related channel and you've mentioned how much competition is there in the niche. Would you personally say it's worth the time to try and create another channel? What I would say is what's working now for people is going into a more deeper niche specific topic, because what I have found with this niche in particular is that when I started, and I would still consider myself to be kind of a generic channel. I talk about house hacking. I talk about credit score, make money online, Airbnb hosting as a way to make money. Like I feel like I talk about all kinds of crap. And that works for me because I already have this audience built up. But what works well for smaller channels is really diving in on like one topic, but being really thorough about it. So what I would do if you're a finance channel is figure out like, what's the one thing that you're like, this is my thing. Like, this is what I really want to talk about, and just talk about solely that topic, whether it's like dividend investing or like house hacking. Like pick your topic and then just go all in on that topic rather than trying to dabble in a bunch of stuff like passive income ideas and how to make money online. Like, I feel like those days are gone in terms of building your channel with those generic videos that everyone's making. But if you figure out these very niche topics that people are searching for and you become that authority, and then you can branch out from there. So it's kind of like start small, then branch out, rather than trying to get all of this, start with a very narrow topic, build up a smaller audience, then broaden a little bit more, then broaden a little bit more. Because what you're going to be doing is building up authority. You're going to be ranking up higher in search. So start small and then branch out larger is what I would say. What do you think of Graham Stephan? Do you look up to him? At one point I did for sure, but I wouldn't change lives with him. I've met him on numerous occasions. My only criticism for him is I don't know that he has great work-life balance. And I feel like he almost is just too much into making money and all this house hacking stuff to the point where he doesn't really ever take time to enjoy life. But that's just from my perspective. He may really love what he does, but he certainly does a great job at making a lot of money on YouTube. So you got to respect it. Let's see. What does your day-to-day look like now due to COVID? Pretty much exactly the same as it was before COVID, because I'm self-employed, work from home. I usually travel a lot, which I haven't traveled much at all this year, maybe 2 times total, but I do like to travel. I like to go to different conferences and like FinCon and things like that. So that was kind of weird this year to not have anything like that to go to. But yeah, it's pretty much just, a normal schedule working from home. I get up, I exercise in the morning, and day to day, it just depends on what I have going on in that day, whether I'm recording a video. If so, I got to coordinate with my editor, or maybe I'm, outlining a video or jumping on a call to talk about a potential video sponsor, or maybe I'm working on scheduling posts for the blog that I own or co-own with my business partner. It just all depends on what particular task is that day. And I don't really have things set up like specifically, like I don't record every Tuesday. I just kind of go with the flow. When I have a video idea, I'll outline that video and then, coordinate with my videographer and say, hey, why don't you come over Tuesday? We'll shoot that video. So it's really different day by day. But in terms of COVID, that's had basically no effect on my day-to-day stuff other than just, not traveling as much. What opportunities do you see to make some money from the pandemic? I think there's a huge opportunity here. There's so many opportunities with this pandemic. For one thing, you have a lot more attention on social media. And so I think this is a good time to be doubling down or tripling down if you're trying to build up a following of some kind. Like I said, if you are, I would look at TikTok, I would look at Instagram Reels and some of these newer features and throw some content out there, see how that goes. Any other opportunities would be stuff related to how do I answering the question of like, how do I do this in a safe way? You know, like whatever that may be. How do I get groceries in a safe way? Oh, I get them delivered to my door. How do I have an eye appointment in a safe way? Just like think about things and like, because COVID has it's been a paradigm shift for people of like, oh, wait a second, germs are real. I need to watch out for these germs. It's like this thing that people never thought about before. So now that people are so conscious of germs, it's like, how do we now do the things that we all need to do, but do it in a safer way? So I would just encourage you to think about that. And again, at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are people who just fix problems. So what are some new problems that exist today? I know one. Every time people wear a mask with their glasses on, it fogs up their glasses. So how could you fix that? What's the solution? So I would think about things like that, where there's a new set of problems. How do we fix those new problems? That would be my 2 cents on the pandemic. Do you have a schedule for posting? Are there certain days / times of the week that you'll upload? Not really, no. I mean, it's really just depends on the video topic. If it's like a timely topic, like something I'm covering a news topic, I'll try to get it out as soon as possible. But other than that, I pretty much upload once a week whenever I get the video done. Again, Graham is consistent Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And because of that, I think that's helped him with his viewership. I'm just not as organized, and I've done the scheduled thing before. Now I'm kind of more carefree with it. My only problem with scheduling it is like you feel like compelled to, I got to get a video out, and you may not be putting your best foot forward because you're just doing it because you have that obligation. And then as far as the blog goes, we just schedule out posts. We have like anywhere from 3 to 5 new articles going up per week over there. And those we just schedule like one every single day when we have new articles going up. Let's see here. What are your favorite side hustles you've researched or tested? I mean, YouTube, obviously. I think that's a great side hustle. It takes a long time though. Like I would say if you're starting a channel now, you're probably not going to make any money for like 12 to 18 months. But if you love what you're doing, then, that could be worth it to you. Another side hustle I like right now is, and this is one that's been around forever, is just flipping stuff. Like that's what I would do when I was younger too, is I would go on Craigslist and I'd go to garage sales. Like when I was 14, I would bug my mom during the summers because she worked from home to like drive me to garage sales. And I would always just look for stuff to try to sell. And I remember one time I bought a acoustic guitar in a case for $2. And then I brought it home and I put new strings on it and I cleaned up the case and I flipped it the next day for 60. So look for like, especially if you guys are a little bit older, but that's more for like younger people. If you're not quite old enough to work or whatever, if you want some extra money, go flip stuff. Like I made $58 in like 2 hours of work. Like that's pretty good. So I would look for opportunities like that. Another side hustle that I've heard is working well right now is couch flipping, which is interesting because people, especially if you have a truck, what people are doing is they'll go out there and they'll buy a cheap couch on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist for like, let's say $200, bring it home, steam clean it, vacuum it, take better photos, then you repost it on Craigslist or Marketplace, but you offer delivery. You say, hey, here's the couch and we'll deliver it, because that's the number one sticking point for most people about buying furniture is, oh crap, I got to rent a U-Haul or borrow a truck. So let's say you buy a couch for $200, clean it up, take better photos, list it for $500, but free delivery. You might get someone to buy it, and you make $300 in the process. I've heard a couple of people who have who've done that. Let's see. Have you invested differently amidst crazy market? Yeah, I literally threw as much cash as I possibly could at the market in March and April. So I got really aggressive and had some really solid returns this year because I was just hammering money into the market. That was always my plan, was whenever there was a big downturn, uh, just funnel a ton of money into the market. So I was in a position, thankfully, because of my saving, that I had a lot of cash on hand. But yeah, I basically threw just about every dime I had into, blue chip stocks in March, April. So that was my strategy there. And then I bought some growth stocks in over the summer, and I've sold a bunch of those since then, put that money back in my dividend portfolio. But yeah, this has been a phenomenal year to get money into the market.
Ryan,
Yep.
I'm going to have you answer this last question from Leo, and then I have 2 or 3 follow-up points or questions, and then we're kind of getting to the end of the time, which this has been awesome.
Perfect. Yeah.
Just want to let everyone know he's going to do one more question, then we'll start wrapping it up.
Sounds good. Yeah. So let's see. Leo said, how has your process been for making digital courses? What resources do you use? I use a site called Teachable, and you basically pay like a subscription per month, and they host your course. They host basically everything. You put your course on there, you set up a landing page, and they handle the payment gateway, lost passwords. Like, you literally don't have to do anything. Like, they handle all of it. So if you're doing a course, I would definitely recommend using Teachable.
All right. And then I should have, as the facilitator here, asked you this question to begin with. And if you don't mind sharing kind of your personal life, your age, are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you live? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, no problem. I am 25 and I turned 26 in March. I live in upstate New York. And yeah, right now I'm single, no kids, mostly just focused on business right now, just because I think there's, when I'm closer to my 30s, I'll probably settle down and maybe have kids and stuff. But I think in your 20s, you guys are so young too. Like, there's no rush for that in life. And I think it's important to spend the time when you're young building up these passive income streams. Because I'm telling you guys, this is the most time in your late teens and early 20s. This is the most free time you're ever going to have. When you get older, you're going to have more obligations, and you're not going to have those hours every single day. So, like, make the most of it while you have it.
Thanks. And then I'm just curious, have you heard of the FIRE movement?
Yeah, I've heard of that for sure. We actually have had a couple of articles written on my blog about it. So I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Okay. And the follow-up question to that would be, are you yourself pursuing early financial independence in a way that you have a goal to get to a point where you no longer have to work unless you want to? Is that one of your aspirations?
It's a tricky question, because what I love to do is this. So it's kind of funny, because it's like, I would never want to escape this, but I do completely agree with that whole premise. I think it's genius, and I know people who've done it. I certainly have the goal of building up enough assets to cover all of my expenses, but I'm still going to work. I'm still going to, jump on calls like this and do this kind of stuff because I love it. But like, looking at FIRE as a means of escaping this is kind of silly, because I love this thing that I do, but yeah, I definitely, would like to get to a point where this type of work becomes an option. Rather than something where it's like, oh, I have to do that. And even to some extent, I'm at that point now where, if I make a video, it's because I want to make that video, not necessarily because I have to fulfill some scheduling obligation or some monetary obligation. So I think I agree with it. And it just comes down to having more control over my schedule, I guess.
Thanks. Yeah, and I asked because you mentioned, you have a really, really high savings rate, and that's one of the keystones of the FIRE movement is to maximize that savings rate so that you can just plow money into investments and passive income. So I think without knowing it, and you probably do, but you're well on your way to early financial independence.
Yeah, probably, but it's kind of an indirect path.
Yeah.
Obviously, too, making substantially more income than average helps in terms of being able to save a lot. But I also want to say to you guys that even when I was working my union job for the power utility, I lived at home with my mom and I rented the bedroom. I paid her like $500 a month for rent. Actually, I think it was 600. But anyway, I paid her $600, lived at home, rented the bedroom. I drove a 15-year-old car with 200,000 miles on it. And I brought my lunch every day, made coffee at my desk, literally spent as little as possible. And I was saving at least 50% of my income, even when I was younger, making significantly less income. And I was taking that money, I was putting it in the 401k, I was putting it in company stock, I was putting it in my savings. So like, it's not this magical thing that happens where all of a sudden you make 200 grand a year. And now I'm going to start saving. No, you start saving and investing when you make 20,000 a year, and then you make 30, 40, 50, and you just repeat that same strategy. So it is easier to save when you have more money, but it's not impossible to save when you have little money, because I've done it. I pushed carts when I was 15 at a grocery store, and I saved up my money. I worked summers and saved up a couple grand. I'm sure all the people listening have some money saved up, and you probably have friends that have $0, and you understand that it's like you're willing to make those sacrifices that other people aren't, and just continue doing that.
Thanks. Yeah. And one last question. This kind of goes back to your bread and butter with the YouTube channel, I think, where you started. What is your opinion about, if a young person, let's say 18 to 25, is looking to invest in the stock market, what is your opinion about doing that in an index fund?
That's probably, well, here's the thing. There's two sides to this, because what I struggle with is, for young people especially, investing in index funds it's not fun. It's boring. It's like, oh wow, the index funds, that's, it's hard to get people excited about dollar cost averaging into an index fund.
It is not sexy. No.
Right, exactly. It's not at all. And so while that is logically the best strategy for people to follow, more people are probably not going to do that, because it's not like, and so like, this is, I guess, how I would explain it. If you are somebody who's just like obsessed with Tesla, right? And then you want to buy Tesla stock and you want to own that stock, you're going to probably be willing to make a lot more sacrifices to be like, yeah, I'm investing in Tesla. I love this company. Like, I follow Elon Musk. I respect this guy. Like, you're more likely, in my opinion, to make those sacrifices unless you have really good discipline, versus being like, oh, I'm going to dollar cost average into VOO. It's harder to, from what I've seen, get people excited about doing the correct, or not correct, but doing the what is more what works for most people. So I even find it with myself. I mean, I just am way more interested in my individual stock portfolio as opposed to my index funds portfolio. Even though, in the index fund one probably outperforms my individual stocks, it's just not as interesting to me as the dividend portfolio. So I would say a mixture of both is good. If you have that discipline, and you want to be totally passive, yeah, dollar cost average into index funds. That's the best way to do it. But don't feel bad if you want to, trade some individual stocks. I wouldn't put all your money there. And of course there's some risk, but it's almost become like a social thing where you talk about your stocks, and it's kind of like, I don't know, for me, there's a lot of social aspects to being an investor.
Fantastic, Ryan. Well, we're going to wrap it up here because I want to respect your time. And I kind of apologize. We kind of threw you right into the fire. I mean, the chat questions just kept coming, and that was a solid hour of you just talking, but it was amazing. And I learned a couple of things, and I'm sure everyone else learned a ton.
That's great. Yeah, no problem at all. I enjoy talking, and I appreciate having the stage here. So I hope everybody learned something, and I'm excited. I'm sure there's a lot of millionaires in the making here in this group. So Very cool.
I agree. This is actually an amazing group of young people, and they are going to take over the world here in about 10 or 15 years or less.
Yeah. Awesome.
So Ryan, thanks again for your time. Keep crushing it on your channel. And I think we're all fighting the good fight here and just trying to help people make good decisions so they can live their best life. So I appreciate you, and I'll be in touch, Ryan. So thanks again, and you're free to log out or disconnect or whatever, and I'm just going to wrap up things with the group here.
Hi
Sounds
everyone, if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.